we're taking a look at the Lavinia of the 10th EDH deck. 4/4 creature for 5 mana, protection from red. Sometimes you play against a mono red EDH, which is somewhat rare in my area, and the 4/4 body really comes into play there and can win the game for you. But when she comes into play, detain each non-land permanent your opponents control. Opponents plural, fits the multiplayer game, is very good, with converted mana cost 4 or less. So it doesn't hit the big things, but if you keep on blinking Lavinia of the 10th in, you can detain every turn, which is really good. And a lot of this deck is built around that, blinking creatures. Let's start with some of the lands. Dual. Some of your normal fixing lands for a 2-color deck. I do need a few more of them. Reliquary Tower, always good. No maximum hand size. Academy Ruins, really good. Put target artifact in your graveyard on top of your library. Tularia West comes into play tapped and for a blue. Add blue to your mana pool, but most likely you're going to be transmuting that for either a Maze of Ith or some of the other good lands in here, Academy Ruins, etc. Untap target legendary permanent. There's a bunch of legendary creatures in here. Let's see, fetch a basic, Maze of Ith, and then we just have some basic islands and some basic planes. Alright, now it has a fun little subset, Quest of Ula's Temple. This is where it kind of gets janky for a second. One of my favorite decks when I first started playing Magic was a deck with all sea creatures, manta rays, and School of Piranhas, and just junk like that. So if you remember all that fun stuff, give me a shout. But Quest for Ula's Temple, let me read it to you. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at top card of your library. If it's a creature card, reveal it and put a quest counter on the card. At the beginning of each end step, so each end step, even your opponent's, if there are 3 or more quest counters on Quest for Ula's Temple, you may put a Kraken, Leviathan, Octopus, or Serpent card from your hand into the battlefield. So with all of the different ways you can look through the deck, you can pretty much stack this with Sensei's Divining Top and Scroll Rack, etc. So you have a creature on the top during your upkeep. So then, this is a Leviathan, pretty nasty. Octopus. Kraken. A lot of times you want to suspend this, but you can always cheat it in. And then also Division of Wishes is really good with blinking. Pay 4, remove a wish counter from Division of Wishes, reveal the top card of your library, and if it's one of these things, these big, huge, fatty creatures, you can pay 4 and put it into play. We have some fixing here. Signet, Cluestone, Sky Diamond, Marble Diamond, Talisman of Progress, Thran Dynamo, and Gemstone Array is an interesting one I've been starting to play in EDH decks. End of turn, if you have spare mana, for every 2 you pump into it, you can put a charge counter on this thing. Then you remove a charge counter and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Some disruption here, some counters, some hinder, cancel, counter spell, dissipate. Don't have mana leak, need it though. Dismiss, also need a force of will. Disc, just to blow up everything. Warhammer, put on your general, put on one of the big creatures. Now here's some of the blink stuff. Ghost away. There's a lot of creatures in here that have come into play abilities. So if you ghost away your team, especially if you if someone wraths in response to the Wrath of God, just cast Ghost away, you're in a pretty good shape. All your creatures come back, plus all their come into play abilities trigger. Rhystic Study, draw a lot of cards, annoy a lot of people. Turn to Mist. Now some of these lower cost instants, I do have the Isochron Scepter in here, so some of these are really good Scepter targets, like Turn to Mist on any one of your come into play ability creatures, or Lavinia. Flicker Form. Let's see, Clone any creature, clone a legendary creature, someone's general. Mind Control. If you want to just grab some big creatures that are out there, Confiscate, Enchanted Permanent, Blue Sun Zenith. There is a way to get infinite mana in here, so you can mill somebody out with this card, or you can just draw some cards at the end of someone's turn because it's an instant. I used to have some sorcery speed draws, but this is so good at instant speed, you just can't beat it. Serum Visions, Scry 2, Jace's Ingenuity. This used to be a Tidings, but again, the instant speed is just too good here. You don't want to have sorcery card draw because you waste so much of your own mana during your own turn, and you kind of leave yourself wide open sometimes. Alright, Brainstorm. Ancestral Vision is a great card. Draw a few cards. Telling Time I really like, just to fix the top of your library. Now, Scroll Rack is great for Quest of Ula's Temple or with Counterbalance. See, it's not just enough to have Counterbalance and Sensei's Divining Top, which a lot of people think is really good. Some hate it, some to say it's broken. But if you put Scroll Rack into the mix, instead of looking at the top 3, you can look at the top however many cards are in your hand. So you can counter quite a few spells with these 3 cards. Isochron Scepter, there's quite a few targets, counter spell, Turn to Mist, and you'll see some more in here, just a lot of good stuff. Some creatures here, when Kaiga is put into play, gain control of target creature. Voidstalker is pretty interesting. I've just started playing it, just got a copy of it real cheap. It's a way to put somebody's general on top of their owner's library. It says put Voidstalker and target creature on top of their owner's libraries, then both of those players shuffle their libraries. So you can shuffle in somebody's general with this. The Primordial is really awesome. For for each opponent you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost, and then you exile it. So when this comes into play, you do that for everybody's graveyard, and it ends up being awesome in multiplayer. It's even better when you can just blink this thing, because multiple times a turn you can just start casting stuff from everybody's graveyard, instant or sorcery, and just think of all the interesting things you might find. And color requirements, who cares? You can cast a black card, red card, etc., because you don't pay its mana cost. Guildmage is just a strong creature. Tap target creature or counter target activated ability like a fetch land. You pretty much get rid of it. They basically waste a card. Kind of like land destruction. Memnarch can win games all by himself. He's in here just for an alternate win condition. Muldrifter, classic. Also, when you blink him, draw out 2 cards again. Deadeye Navigator. Everybody probably knows this card, but you can do some nasty things with come into play abilities. Soar of Temptation. Grab a creature as long as this is in play. Mistmeta Witch blinks a creature. Great card. Chronozoa is just funny. A lot of people said, what is that? And they always want to read Chronozoa. It's cool. Basically, it has Vanishing 3. When Chronozoa is put into a graveyard from play, if it had no time counters on it, put 2 tokens into play that are copies of it. So it just basically multiplies. War Priest of Thune, when it comes into play, destroy target enchantment, which is awesome. Blinking this thing is great too. Royal Elemental, when a lever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain control of target creature as long as you control this. So this thing basically dies right away, but if you can keep it alive, you can grab a bunch of creatures. Duplicant, definitely great, because you can remove a creature from the game, especially if someone's abusing their graveyard, returning the same creature over and over every turn. A Peregrine Drake, when it comes into play, untap up to 5 lands, and if you flash this card into play, you can get infinite mana with this card, because you just keep on untapping 5 lands. You just flash this card in, untap 5 lands, do something else, keep on untapping 5 lands, such as the Mistmeta Witch, because when you untap, the Mistmeta Witch is the ability at cost 4. So whenever you flash this in, you untap up to 5 lands again, assuming you have 5 lands. And then you do the Mistmeta Witch's ability again. So every time you do that loop, you net 1 mana. So you can get infinite mana to use towards Memnarch, or maybe Blue Sun Zenith to mill someone. Sphinx of Lost Truth. This might come out. When it enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards. If it wasn't kicked, discard 3 cards. But see, the thing is, if you flash it in, you can't pay its kicker again, because you can only pay the kicker when you cast the spell, not when it comes into play. Weathered Wayfarer is awesome because it searches for a land card, not a basic land card, so you can search for anything. Day of Judgment. Silence is great. Your opponents can't cast spells this turn. Put that on a stick. It's pretty funny. Capsize. You're always capsizing with buyback. And if you have infinite mana, you just basically capsize someone's board. Mystical Tutor again. Search for a library or your library for an instant. Interrupt mana source or sorcery. Put that in a stick. Tutor something every turn. Condemn. You got a pesky general that likes to attack. Put it, shuffle it back in. Hindering Light is pretty good. Counter target spell that targets you or a permanent you control. Draw a card. Boomerang. Again, these are also great stick targets. Return target permanent to owner's hand. Fabricate. Search your library for an artifact card. And Rite of Replication. This is very good because you can get rid of a general, an opponent's general this way. Or you can just put in, especially if you can kick it, you can put in tons of copies of a nasty creature, a Blightsteel Colossus, etc. And you can pretty much win the game with this card too. Thanks a lot for watching.